sitting at a conference.
Uh-huh.
We're at a table, and I'm in uniform, and this woman was sitting next to me, and she says to me, she says, "Oh, have you seen? Chief, I have to ask you, what do you think of the television program, The Shield, with Michael Chiklis?" and I looked at her and I went, "Well," I said, I've heard of the show, but I have not seen it. I'll be honest with you, I've not seen it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Okay.
People really like it."
Uh-huh.
And she says, and I said, well, "Tell me, what's it about? Maybe I'll start watching it."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Well, it's about a police officer who's a good cop, but he's also a bad cop." And I went, "Excuse me, ma'am, just hold on one second. There ain't no such thing. You're either a good cop or you're a bad cop."
Absolutely.
And the look on her face, I mean, she literally backed up. And she
Uh-huh.
looked at me, and I went, "Think about it, ma'am." And she went, "Well, I guess he's a bad cop." And I said, "Okay, now tell me the rest of it."
Wow. What did you think, Danny, when I interviewed Armando? I mean, he's got a lot of views, and then he drops your name in the middle of the interview because you said you were mowing the lawn.
Oh, yes.
And he had sent you the link.
He sent me the link.
But you didn't expect that.
I didn't expect that at all, quite frankly. I'm out there, and I am working on the yard.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh, this is a great way to just, because it had to have been extensive because it's on video. I thought, you know what? I'll just work and I'll hear Armando.
Yeah.
And Armando's got a great voice.
Doesn't he?
He has a tremendous voice. It's just something that flows about it. So anyway, I'm working in the yard and I'm hearing it. I'm almost 30, 40 minutes into it, and all of a sudden I hear, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
The topics that he covered, the history of the police department, the history of the Dallas Police Department,
Yeah.
and his entry into it, being one of the first Hispanic officers in the police department
Yeah.
of Dallas.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sitting there, I have a great respect for Armando because he recruited me.
Exactly.
Did my
That story
background
was gold.
investigation into the Dallas Police Department.
Yeah.
So I have a tremendous gratitude to him. But when I heard him mention my name, man, I'm dropping all these tools, and now I'm picking up the phone and I'm listening to it even more intently. But what a great story he told about his experience and holding me accountable to something that I had totally forgot about.
Yeah.
I thought it was taken care of. But that was the extent of his investigative tenacity.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the beauty of having met Armando. The guy was an outstanding police officer, and in this interview, I will talk about the mastery of policing.
Uh-huh.
And what I mean by the mastery of policing is when police officers get to a point in every rank and every position of mastering that particular craft in policing.
Yeah.
And that's much bigger than just being a good cop
And promoting.
It's mastering that craft and then giving it to somebody else, teaching somebody else that craft.
You're the first that I've actually broached that subject with, because I've met people who were test takers, who promoted, but they had no interest in real leadership. They just wanted the promotion. And it was apparent when you worked around them or worked for them. They just wanted the promotion for the money.
Yeah, title.
The title. But it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. It's much bigger. You know, the fact is that I think there's nothing wrong with having a desire to lead. There is something wrong with chasing titles.
Yes.
Especially, I think there's a big misnomer out there sometimes that police chiefs are to be at the top of the organization, but yet, and I find this kind of unusual, that they don't consider themselves expert in their field. They surround themselves with experts in their field.
What do you think of that?
Look, in my opinion,
Uh-huh.
if you're a police chief, not only should you be an expert in your field, it's your responsibility to be an expert in your field. In every facet of policing, not just patrol, every facet of policing. Now, maybe I'm lucky because I got to work in every bureau of the Dallas Police Department.
Yeah.
Investigations, special investigations, tactical. I was over the tactical squad. I worked personnel, internal affairs. I worked everywhere. I was a firearms instructor for the Dallas Police Department.
Wow.
All these different areas But it was still my responsibility to master every one of those assignments. Not titles, assignments that justify the title. So now when you go to become a police chief somewhere else, sure, you want to surround yourself with the right people. And you preferably want to assign yourself around people who first and foremost have mastered policing.
Yeah.
That are police experts in their field. If all you're doing is surrounding yourself with people that have administrative skins on the wall, man, I'm telling you, you're going to miss something somewhere in a crisis.
That can come back to haunt
That can come back to haunt you. For me, sure, you want to have people that have more experience than you, that have maybe an assignment that you never had. You need that expertise. I've been at the round table with a police chief who had the right players sitting around him, and I could look around the table and I go, yeah, that guy knows investigations pretty good. Yeah, he knows patrol really well. And I wanted to know where my seat was among those people. So for me, the mastery of policing was be a master first and foremost in patrol, because that's where we all start.
Yeah.
And if you haven't mastered that,
there's a problem.
There's a problem.
Yeah.
So for me, you still want to surround yourself with the right people, and the chief isn't always the expert on everything.
Yeah.
But you damn sure should be.
Yeah.
You damn sure should try to be the expert on everything. Because quite frankly, I think it sets a tone that everybody says, he's not just a police chief, he knows. He knows.
Yeah, yeah.
He knows means something to me. He knows.
Let me take you back to this. Armando mentioned when he met you, you were in college. What college did you go to?
I was going to Sam Houston State University.
That's right.
And I was just about to graduate.
You know, I called Sam Houston State the John Jay of the South.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Have you've seen John Jay?
Oh,
You've been there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think I like that.
When I was recruiting, I went to John Jay. I remember saying, okay, I hit the Mecca. And I was there for a few days.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I had a chance to come to Sam Houston State, and I was like, okay, this is the John Jay of the South.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? In 2014, I was their Criminal Justice Alumni of the Year.
Okay.
So I was with Phoenix PD, and they invited me to come in, and you take part in that, and you take part of the, I think they call it the sundial ceremony, where they recognize all the officers killed in the line of duty from the state of Texas. Very moving ceremony. But the fact is that Sam Houston State has done a great job of giving, I'm always taken back how often I see Sam Houston and John Jay in various LinkedIn tie-ins.
Yes.
I mean, and I go, oh man, I got a tie-in with this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a tie-in there.
Did you always want to, Danny, to be a police officer even when you were young? What led you to that? I mean, what led you to that decision?
Well, it's kind of two funny stories on that.
Okay.
My father was what I call a good disciplinarian.
Okay.
He wasn't mean, man. He was a good disciplinarian. And what I mean by a good disciplinarian is a father who, number one, has that talk with his kids.
Yeah.
But also, that the consequences of punishment are worse than committed an offense.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. I get it.
And it wasn't that my father was abusive, nothing like that. No,
he
was not.
Yeah.
My father had a look that would melt you. Okay, and if he gave you that look, that was enough for me. Okay?
Yeah.
I remember my father sitting us down and telling us a couple of things. He said, and he told us in Spanish, "Lo que pasa afuera se acerca, no te importa a ti." What that means in English is, what happens outside the fence of our house is none of your business.
Wow.
So that set the parameter of keep your business at home. Okay. The other thing he told us was, if you're ever stopped by the police, it's yes sir and no sir, and you do what you're told. You understand?
And few of us do that as parents today. I've done that with my sons.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
So that was his parameter of good discipline. Okay?
Yeah.
So I remember I was 8 years old. I'm playing football with all my buddies and my brother, and we're in that neighborhood park, and we're done playing, but we're still being rowdy because we're all, back and forth gigging each other about who won and what happened.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the police come around the corner, and for some reason everybody ran.
Now, where were you all living then?
This is in Corpus Christi, South Texas.
Corpus Christi, yeah.
South Texas. Everybody ran, including my brother. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at everybody run. And sure, I had that thought go through my head, should I run? And, I remember my father, yes sir, no sir. And I just stopped. And I didn't run, I didn't just stop. I walked straight up to the squad car. I'm 8 years old, and the officer, I'm 8 to 9, maybe 10, and the officers look at me, and they roll down the window, and the officer driving looks at me and goes, "What are y'all doing?" And I said, "We're just playing football." And he just looked at me, and he smiled, and he said, "Okay." And I went, "Okay."
Oh,
and it was
man.
interesting because a couple of things happened.
Okay.
The ants came back to the anthill. Everybody that I was playing with came back. And I'm immediately the hero because I didn't run. I actually talked to the police.
Yeah.
And so they tell me I told them what happened. And it was interesting because it was just something that told me, number one, you haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
And number two, these are the good guys. That's what my dad's always said to us. You know, they represent, what's good about humanity. Just stay there. And it was a good visit. It was a short visit, but it was a good visit, and it stuck with me. And beyond that, at some point, I guess I must have started talking about it because in my high school annual, there's 3 autographs from fellow classmates that said, "Danny, be careful being a police officer,"
Whoa.
or "Good luck being a police officer."
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I remember several years after I'd been a police officer, I found my high school annual and I opened it up and I saw that, and I thought to myself, my God, I must have been talking about being a police officer all the way back to 1974 when I graduated from high school.
Wow.
So I guess that profession was always with me, but the fact is that I came from a big family. We were 9 kids, 6 boys and 3 girls. 4 of my brothers became law enforcement officers.
You were talking about, it's funny, I was just thinking this. You talked about the lady earlier asking you about the sitcom, the show. Mm-hmm. But you all were really a live version of, and don't take this wrong, a Hispanic blue blood.
We were.
Yeah.
No, it really was. It was an interesting.
Because they got that show.
Yeah.
Blue Bloods.
True.
You guys were the Blue Bloods.
We were.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because it had different factions involved in it. Mm-hmm. Because number one, even in Armando, he talks about the relationship between the Hispanic community and the police, and you have these stereotypes. Well, you look at me, I'm light skinned.
Exactly.
And some people take me as being Anglo, and I'm not. I'm Hispanic. I'm fluent in Spanish.
Exactly.
And that's made a difference in my policing. I can assure you that.
Absolutely.
Walking into somewhere and people start going right into Spanish. I can tell you, I've made a number of arrests where people were trying to cover up a crime in front of me,
and didn't know.
They had no idea that I was fluent in Spanish.
Wow.
But getting back to the family portion of it, my father was a truck driver. Hard blue-collar worker. My oldest 2 brothers were Marines, and that's the area they went into. But my 3rd oldest brother became a police officer in Corpus Christi. He retired as assistant chief after 40 years there. But once he became a police officer, it had to reinforce my direction even stronger.
What's his name?
It's Jesse Garcia. Jesse V. Garcia.
Okay.
And then I followed him. I was the next one.
Okay.
Even though I had a brother older than me. He was the one with me at the football field who took off running.
Okay.
I always teach him about that.
And he ended up being a cop?
He became a police officer with Houston Police Department.
Okay.
He was an undercover officer. He was Louis V. Garcia.
Okay.
With the Houston Police Department, yeah. But he did 33 years with me.
Wow.
And then I was before him in Dallas. And then my youngest brother, Ruben, became a police officer in Corpus Christi. So we had 2, I guess from a standpoint of, let's separate them in rank. 2 chiefs, my brother Jesse and me.
Yeah.
And then my brother Ruben and Louis were at the field level.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because not only did we talk about policing, but we talked about, you chiefs think you know everything, and you officers don't understand.
Oh, man.
And we got into that mantra, that journey of not only serious conversations, but also teasing conversations
Yeah.
of what it's like to be in those particular ranks.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I really appreciated those because they kept me grounded to what the troops think.
That's important.
It's a real important.
I'm going to tell you from my level, that's extremely important. You can tell a leader, I'll say that with air quotes, who really doesn't care about leading. They're there for the title. We talked about that earlier.
Unfortunately, I've worked for some of those.
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But it was interesting because we got to discuss those things.
Yeah.
And we even got to discuss the aspects of the Hispanic community and how we policed and stuff. And sure, we saw our level of racism, and sometimes very blatantly, even within our own organizations. You know, we're talking 70s.
Yes.
The era of policing in the 1970s, which sometimes wasn't always very pretty. But somehow, I think all four of us had long careers. My brother did 40 years, I did 37, Lewis did 33, my youngest brother did 33.
You loved policing?
We loved policing.
Yeah.
And my dad, I used to, excuse me.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I used to love talking to my father about policing.
yeah.
Because I could see a glint in his eye that
He was proud of you.
He was proud of us, no doubt. But
Yeah.
maybe that, oh man, what an opportunity. Maybe I should have been one of those guys.
Wow.
It was just a look.
Yeah.
You know, and
Your mother, was she proud too?
oh, my mom prayed to every Catholic saint there is.
To keep you safe.
To keep us safe.
Yeah.
You know, that was her job. You know,
Uh-huh.
she was constantly keeping us safe, and thank God she did. You know, and we come from a strong Catholic family. But,
Yeah.
But again, yes, you know, that was her. She was extremely proud of us as police officers, and she told that to anybody that she had an opportunity to, and so did my father. You know, and but yeah, it was very interesting to grow up in South Texas, Corpus Christi, down south, but still be part of coming to big cities and police in that capacity. It was always very interesting for me, very moving, because I was proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, so you had a brother, Corpus Christi, brother Houston PD.
Two in Corpus Christi.
Two in Corpus Christi, one in Houston PD. You're
And
in
then
Dallas.
Dallas, yeah.
What did you think when you first came here to
You know,
Dallas?
it was a big city.
Yeah.
It was a big city. I mean, I tell you what, I couldn't have had a worse introduction to Dallas. I'm driving in to take the oral review board.
Yeah, yeah.
And this street cop starts yelling at me because I'm going the wrong way in downtown Dallas, and it scared the hell out of me. You know.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I was wrong. I was going the wrong way.
Yeah.
I was. I tell you how I came to refer to Dallas. It was a 5-digit zip code. I came from a 4-digit zip code. The first time I was dispatched to a location that had 5 digits, I kept asking the dispatcher to repeat because I couldn't believe that there was address that big.
Yeah, yeah.
And finally he got mad to me, and he spelled it, and he gave the digits one at a time so I would get it. And I thought to myself, oh my God,
Yeah.
you're in a big city, man.
How many people you have in your class? Do you even remember?
Yes, we had 43, I think.
Okay.
43 people in class.
I mean,
And all of them graduated except for 3. I think we had 3. We lost 3 in the class.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good class.
And how many Hispanics in your class at that
There
time?
was 4 Hispanics in class.
So
yeah.
you're definitely tight.
Oh yeah.
You came from different areas of the country?
different areas of San Antonio, El Paso, that kind of thing. But yeah, the class was really close, and it was a challenging class. I wound up being a vice president of the class, voted vice president.
Wow.
Which I thought was a really neat honor. My first year in Dallas PD, I was up for Rookie of the Year, and I came in second in that.
Yeah.
Which honestly took me really kind of by surprise. You know, I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah,
It was just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was doing my job, so to speak. But that was quite an honor, and I actually remember driving to the ceremony and hearing it announced on the radio, and my name being told being mentioned on the radio. I mean, you're talking to a young man from Corpus Christi, Texas,
Yeah,
and thinking,
yeah.
oh my God,
Yeah.
how cool is that? So proud moments,
Yeah.
that I cherish.
You've had an interesting career. You've gone through the ranks. I was contemplating. There was a tragedy that took place in Dallas. It was a young Hispanic boy.
Santos Rodriguez, yes.
Where were you at at that time?
That happened in, I believe it was 1973. I came in 1978.
Okay.
So the incident
it was still fresh.
It was still very fresh in the minds of many of the community of Dallas, especially the Hispanic community.
Exactly.
And rightly so.
Yes.
Rightly so.
I mean, how did that weigh on you? Did you think about it? Did your friends think about it?
We did, and it was interesting because in the late 70s, I wouldn't say that the Hispanic community was still as boisterous as they needed to be.
Yes.
They needed to be heard more. And even within the department, we didn't have a Hispanic Officers Association then. There was a number of officers, and we would occasionally come together and talk about issues.
Yes.
But even that phase of it was not even strong enough. There was still a lot of dialogue in 1978 that needed to be had, demanded to be had. Okay. But I tell you something, I've always been impressed, and believe me, I had comparisons. I could compare Houston to Dallas because I had a voice there.
Absolutely.
I could compare Corpus Christi to Dallas because I had two voices there.
Yeah.
So believe me, I was always very proud of Dallas PD. Dallas PD has been, I think, on the right path of moving forward for many years.
I think you were absolutely right. I have a question with regard to that. We're talking about the Hispanic Police Officers Association. I'm going to broaden it. I was a member of the Police Officers Association in Fort Worth and the Black Police Officers Association. I knew that we had a Latino Police Officers Association, and I would always have friends, Anglos and others, and other blacks and Hispanics that would say, why do we need 3 police associations? Why not just one?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, the fact is people need to have inclusion, okay?
Exactly.
And inclusion, I can't define inclusion for you. You can't define inclusion for me.
Absolutely.
This is a personal thing, mind and heart.
Yes.
Okay, so quite frankly, if people see a need to bring groups together, by God, let them have it. Because it will bring up questions that need to be answered. It will reinforce trust, and
there's a comfort level.
And there's a comfort level that has to be met.
Yes,
you're absolutely right. And so from that standpoint, no, I don't see nothing wrong with that. What it brings more than anything is dialogue, and quite frankly, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
If there's two things that law enforcement has a reputation or should be much better at, it is always dialogue and our own terminology. And what I mean by our own terminology, even within law enforcement, we speak our own language.
Exactly, yes.
We speak our own language. And I don't want to wait on the professor at NYU or any other place to define my terminology.
Yes.
Quite frankly, it's impossible.
Yes, absolutely.
They don't walk in my shoes.
I agree.
Unless they walk in my shoes, your terminology is your educational terminology, not my professional terminology. And sometimes those two don't match.
Yeah.
And I can give you example after example of how that works. Policing is very, very closed in relation to how we talk to each other and what we look for and how we perform our duties. But the fact is that terminology is a very important thing. I remember I was thrown back, and I'm going to educate the entire law enforcement world here because
yes.
I swear to God, I've asked people to answer this question for me in many classroom presentations, and I haven't got the right answer yet, except in one place. I'm in Phoenix Police, I'm the police chief in Phoenix, and I was walking to the station, and my executive assistant chief said, he pointed to 2 officers and said, "Hey chief, you know those 2 guys right there, they were involved in a real, just an incredible shooting last year, a police shooting that they barely survived." And of course I wanted to meet him immediately. I would introduce myself to them, and I made them an offer. I said, "Hey look, I really want to get together with you and have lunch with you." And they both looked at me kind of
like,
cockeyed.
yeah, right.
Yeah, because I'm the chief of police. I've only been there 3 weeks, but I want to have lunch with them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I meant it, and because I wanted to hear their story. I wanted to hear what happened. I wanted to learn. So we had lunch 3 weeks later, and we were sitting down talking. And they told me, I said, hey, tell me about your police shoot. And they told me, well, we were working together. It was deep nights. And we saw this guy, and he was a Bob. And so we stopped him. And then what happened, and I reached over the table and almost knocked him out of the chair. I said, what's a Bob?
I was about to ask. I'm like, okay, go ahead.
And he looks at me and he goes, he backed up like, why don't you know this? And he said, what's a burglar on a bike? Now, that's a terminology that is not only a strategy, it's a safety tactic. This guy pulls out a gun in the encounter, both officers jump on him, knock him to the ground, one of my officers is on top of him, he gets shot, the bullet grazes the top of his head. He rolls off, the other officer jumps on top of him, he gets shot in the shoulder, suspect gets up, goes into a house, kicks in the door, not his home, kicks in the door, takes a position there, and has a shootout with the officers who are behind their squad car now.
Wow.
Suspect comes out of the house, says, I've had enough of this, comes out of the house, jumps in the squad car, and the officers come around and they shoot him in the squad car. They stop the suspect, but he doesn't die. He goes to trial. And a number of things that happen as a result of that. And this is also a point that I think is interesting. In my position as chief of police in Dallas, or assistant chief in Dallas,
yes.
I never testified in trial against anybody trying to harm one of my officers because I was never asked. Never thought about that. I wasn't involved in the actual incident.
Exactly, yeah.
But in Phoenix, I was called and asked if I wanted to be part of the victim's testimony against the suspect once he got convicted. We should be doing that all over the United States. My answer was absolutely. Wow. I testified against that subject trying to kill my officers in the sentencing phase. And he wound up getting 99 years. But it's important from a standpoint of not only acknowledging this assault, deadly assault against my officers, but this individual's actions and his accountability and consequences of his actions.
Interesting.
But let's get back to the Bob.
Yeah.
I go back to the station and I asked my XO, I said, Joe, have we ever done a training bulletin on Bobs? And he looked at me and went, well, no, Chief, just about every Phoenix officer knows what a Bob is. And I said, Joe, can you honestly say that? And he went, that's a good point. So we did a training bulletin. But I want people to see this video, or this interview, to understand we have our own terminology, and that terminology can save your life. Here you have a man on a bike in the dead of night, dressed in all black, with a backpack, riding a bike, burglar on a bike, in a high-crime burglary area. It's a good stop.
Interesting.
It's a good stop, and it was, and honestly, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of that incident, we had another officer shot by a Bob. So it's
a burglar on a bike.
Burglar on a bike.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of term and falls in those categories that quite frankly not only define our work strategies and tactics, but even our wellness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, because we have. How do you feel about crisis intervention trained officers?
You know what? I think it's certainly another tool in our toolbox that we have to have. Okay, and I'm all for that. Any kind of training that supplements what we do, especially in the aspect of critical incident management, is extremely important. In my time in Dallas, I got to run the Central Patrol Division. Now, if you know downtown Dallas, the Central Patrol Division is in charge of all of downtown Dallas and all of the entertainment districts. At that point, all of the entertainment districts that were in Dallas. Okay, Greenville Avenue, Deep Ellum, Oak Lawn. Central was in charge of all of them, and downtown Dallas. So from a standpoint of policing, when it comes to special events or critical incidents within the downtown area, they were mine. People don't realize that in downtown Dallas, you have over 500 special events a year in downtown Dallas, just downtown Dallas. I'm not telling you that I was at every single one of them.
Yeah.
But I can tell you this. I approved every single one of those operational plans, unless it was spontaneous. And if it was, I was sure going to be there for that.
Absolutely.
And then the aspect of how we prepared for these events was critical. And out of the 500, I bet you I was there at least 100 every year. So crisis management is important for how we succeed or open the possibilities of succeeding. We live in a world of possibilities and consequences. That's the police world.
And I like that description.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the world we live in.
Yes.
Let me go one step further.
Okay.
That's the world you live in as a father.
Yes. Absolutely.
In parenting.
Yes.
And I live
Yes.
in parenting.
Yes.
I've always liked that term. I've actually studied that term, that terminology, because I believe in it so strongly. In the police world, it keeps us safe. In the parenting world, it keeps our kids safe. It keeps my wife safe. It keeps me safe.
Yes.
It keeps our house safe. In policing, if police chiefs in the United States or of any rank, if they're not living in the world of possibilities and consequences, then they're walking blind.
I agree. You had an exemplary career in Dallas, I'll say that. And then you had the opportunity to leave and you go to Phoenix. You were there for 3 years. What were your feelings when you took that position, when you were hired for that? Because when we had lunch, you knew just from your interview, I found that very interesting. It's something you prepared for all your life.
It was, and what's interesting about it is I applied twice to be the Dallas police chief. First time David Kunkel got the job. I really enjoyed working with David Kunkel. The second time David Brown got the job, and I congratulated him for that. But after the second time, I came to a realization that sometimes your personal goals in policing, especially in I guess in this case being the police chief.
Yes.
My dream was not going to end in Dallas. Sometimes you have to go somewhere else to continue your journey. And I think that's what a lot of law enforcement officers have to recognize, especially in departments, because your future may not lay in that department at some point. Your future may lay somewhere else.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, and sometimes people stay too long because they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting. And we lose ripe fruit on the vine waiting for somebody to pick it. And that's the tragedy, because we have so many outstanding leaders in our organization at every rank.
Yeah.
That they quite frankly can move up into other agencies and make a huge difference. And even in the private sector, this has never been a better time to be an ex-police officer or any rank. But back to the question, once that job did not come available for me, I decided, okay, well, my future is going to be in another police department with another agency. And so Phoenix came up. It was an opportunity to move to the 5th largest city in America. And I thought, wow, this would be the ending that I would like to have.
Interesting time.
So it allowed me to move over to Phoenix. But it also challenged me from the very start, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to apply for the Phoenix police chief. How do I prepare for this job? And the first thing that I asked myself was a question that I unfortunately had never asked myself. And I hope the people that see this video ask themselves that question right now, at whatever rank they are, is what is my policing philosophy? As a police officer, we're given a policing philosophy. We're given a police mission.
Yeah.
We're given an oath of office. We're given a lot of things. Does that always touch you personally? I hope it does.
Yes.
I hope it does.
Yeah.
And it certainly did touch me. But I wanted to even personalize it even further. I wanted to reach down deep into my soul and say, what's your policing philosophy? And I came up with policing with a purpose. Nurture and protect democracy. Ensure justice. The spirit of service. fundamental fairness and protecting our community from harm. I thought, yeah.
And you meant that.
I meant that. When I interviewed in Phoenix, in every interview, I didn't care if they remembered my name. I cared that they remembered my policing philosophy. I wanted them to say, hey, that's the guy with policing with a purpose. That's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. The name's going to come back. The name's going to be recognized later.
Exactly, yeah.
But I wanted that in my interview process. Well, sure enough, when they offered me the job, that's exactly the way the city manager walked up, introduced himself. He said, I'm David Cavazos, and he said, you're the policing with a purpose guy.
Wow.
Mission accomplished. He knew from the onset what he was going to get from me. This is it. This is not only my police philosophy, it's my mantra of policing that I wanted every officer in Phoenix to know. It became my constant messaging for the Phoenix Police Department. Every organization needs constant messaging. And guess what? If you don't provide that constant messaging, somebody else will do it for you. And we've got a lot of people out there who are not on our side.
It's true.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we've got much more people that are on our side.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me repeat that. We have much more people that are on our side.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. I love the communities
Yes.
that we serve in every city.
You have a good run with Phoenix PD. Mm-hmm. You learned a lot. Mm-hmm. The Bob, I mean, you learned something from every interview. I've never heard that expression before.
I never either.
And then, you finished. If you don't mind me bringing this up, your wife is a huge influence on you professionally, and she should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at mine when I got ready to retire, and I retired from the military, and the influence she had when I made that decision. That's important, isn't it?
It's very important. The fact is that I know I'm guilty of this, John. I don't know if you are. Mm-hmm. I hope not, but I hope people listening to this video are not victim to this. But we become so engrossed with, and rightly so, the creeds of policing, the mantras of policing, and the uniform we wear and the badge we wear, and rightly so.
Yes.
Rightly so. But at some point, if you're making your family second to that issue, then you're going down the wrong road.
It's a problem.
It's a problem. It is a huge problem for law enforcement all across the United States, and I know I speak for many of my colleagues at every rank who took that with them home.
Yes.
And the family became secondary in such a point. When you're on your vacations, but your mind is still at the
work.
office, and stuff, and those are the roads we have to prepare ourselves against. Mm-hmm. We can't do that. So yeah, my wife played a huge role in that, and so did my children. Mm-hmm. And the best terminology that I've ever heard on that topic is don't police your family. You don't police your family, and I think that's important. But my wife played a role in my policing career because, number one, when we went to Phoenix, we left our two older children here, and they were. My daughter, I think, was 19. She just graduated from high school, and my son, I think, was 26, and he was about to move out of the house. So we let them stay together, and I went and became the police chief in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And my wife went for the first 6 months. I told my wife, stay home. I don't want you to come with me because I'm going to be very busy, and I want to address the issues of the department head on. But then eventually she came up there. But it was hard on her. It was difficult for her.
Yeah.
There have been times in Dallas where those opportunities arose again, and I've never approached him.
Yeah.
Simply for the reason that I wanted to honor my wife's position that we've done enough.
Yeah.
We've done enough. And you know what? But here's the thing. Look, you can, in our profession, in our city.
Yes.
My city, Dallas. I live in the city of Dallas.
Yes.
I've lived in the city of Dallas since 1991, I think. But the fact is you can be two things, whether it's your police department, your city, and certainly your family. on the other side of the wall there, but you can be an audience to your department and your city, or you can be an author of the history of it. I chose to be an author of the history of the Dallas Police Department and the Phoenix Police Department and the state of Texas and the state of Arizona. I don't just live here. I'm not just part of the audience. At some point, maybe I'll graduate to the point where I deserve that.
Yes.
Because I've done enough.
Wow.
But I have to come to that point in my head. So that's why I'm sitting here with you.
Yes.
I want officers to know what a BOB is. I want officers to know what policing with a purpose is. I want officers to understand the mastery of policing and what it means to be a police chief. If you're the police chief, you're responsible for the legacy of every badge you work on that works under you. You're responsible for their wellness, and you're responsible for making sure they understand the mastery of policing. If you do those three things, your officers are going to be successful. Listen to what I said. Your officers are going to be successful. Your department is going to be successful. And you're going to be there for a great ride. If you don't, then you're just there for the title.
That's an outstanding message. Let me ask you, I'm going to close with this. I see, and I like to say I'm just a watcher. I read a lot of the articles and I listen to people who talk about, well, nobody wants to be a police officer. I don't feel that that's true. I think that, if a recruiter is having a hard time getting candidates, he or she is not looking in the right place.
I have to agree with you very strong on that.
Yeah, because there are people that want to be police officers.
There is, and quite frankly, and maybe this is a good example of this. Mm-hmm. In I want to say it was 1998, maybe 2000, the Dallas Police Department took a very unusual recruiting trip. We went to Puerto Rico.
I was about to say, I know that well.
We went to Puerto Rico. I was in charge of the Puerto Rico recruitment as a deputy chief. I was in charge of the 20 people who went with me.
Yes.
We took polygraphers. We took background investigators. We took everybody. It was a one-stop shop. One time, we're going to take care of all of this, and we don't have to come back unless we're hiring somebody.
This is the way it should be.
We interviewed, I will tell you, I swear, we interviewed at least 180, but we visited with over 200.
Wow.
And the fact is, we wind up hiring almost 9 or 10 officers out of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But
what do you say to people who say, and I think that's a good number, who say, well, that's all you got? That's all you got? But you got good candidates.
We did. And the thing about it is that you don't understand.
You have to invest in that.
That one individual may be the one who not only makes a huge difference in somebody's life.
Yes.
Look, every officer makes a difference in somebody's life. Don't equate the number of 9 or 10 to the money that it took to get you there. The fact is that, hey, every officer out there makes a difference, and every officer out there is an author of the history of our city. Look at it that way.
Yes.
Maybe we picked up some good authors. Maybe we picked up some good authors there.
I agree 100%. Danny, I want to thank you so much for giving me your time, and I can't wait for the audience to see this interview.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.